What we want to talk about now are some methods that are available on strings that we can call and can do some string manipulation. So in Java 1, the only methods that we learned to use were, if I have a string, like the string name that I have up here, we learned to use to uppercase, to lowercase, char at, and dot length. So those were really the four main methods that I said that you needed to know in Java 1. Now in Java 2, what we want to do is add more to our knowledge of strings. So if I look at name dot, and I get a bunch of methods. We actually learned compare to, ignore case, and equals ignore case. But there are other methods. So for example, ends with. I want to check if a string ends with something. So I want to check if, for example, if name dot ends with, let's say ends with college. I want to see if it's a college. So I'm going to see, does it end with college? Or if I have an email address, I want to see, does it end with edu? Okay. I can say system.out.println educational account, for example. You can use the ends with to check if a string ends with something. So here, let's make it in there and check if it's going to recognize if it's an educational account. And it should, because this string ends with .edu. So there's a bunch of methods. So I'm going to go through the slides and we're going to go over a few of these methods. So there's starts with, also ends with. So let's do that starts with. So let's say if name dot starts with then I'm going to say system.out.println it is my address. So we can use the starts with. Now, if you think of Windows, for example, when you double click on a file, how does Windows know which file, which program should be used to open that file? Well, it does look at the file extension, so it's going to see what this file ends with. So if it ends with .text, it's going to open it with Notepad. If it ends with .java, it's going to open it with NetBeans. If it ends with .docx, it's going to open it with Microsoft Word. So something like a program that needs to look at the end of each file name will use something like ends with to determine what to open with. So that's the starts with, ends with. There are other ones called region matches, and those are a little confusing. So let's skip over to an example with the region matches. So basically, region matches, it takes an integer, and let's actually look at an example. So here I have a string str, and this string has the words 4 score and 7 years ago. And I want to go to the string, and I want to see if this string matches another string, which is str2. So I want to see if the first string matches the second string, but I want to see if it matches it in certain places. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the 15, which is the start of where I want to start searching from in string str. So I want to say start with location 15, and then I want you to go to string 2, and I want you to go to location 6 in string 2, and then I want you to compare 11 characters and see if these two are the same or not. Okay, so here it's going to go to location 15 in str, so it's going to go to this s, and then it's going to go to str2 and go to location 6, so it's going to skip over until the s, and then it's going to match 11 characters. And if we count 11 characters, it basically matches the 7 years. So here 11 characters is 7 years, here 11 characters is 7 years, so they match. So here I would get that they are true. Okay, and there's another version of the region matches, which takes an extra Boolean, and this Boolean just says whether I should ignore the case or not, kind of like compared to and compared to ignore case. Compared to is case sensitive, or equals to is case sensitive, but if I want to ignore the case, I would use equals to ignore case and compare to ignore case. So here region matches also would ignore the case. So this is another method that is available on strings. If you have two strings and you want to see if part of them is the same. Now here it is very picky because you really need to know the string that you're searching for is how many characters. And you need to know exactly where to start in the first string and the second string. So it's really depending on where you really have to have knowledge of that string, both strings, which is sometimes hard to do. Other methods available are index of and last index of. And what these do is they tell you the location of a substring. So if you have a string and you want to see where things start, you can find that. For example, here I have my email address and I want to know, I want to get kind of I want to see where the email address is starting, like the domain starts. So I can go and I say, get me the index of the @ So let's say location @ and so I'm going to go to name and I'm going to say, I want you to get me the index of the @ And so here it's going to tell me that the @ is located at location, and let's count together. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it should give me 8. Just double check that it's going to give me the 8. Okay, so it does. So index of will tell me where something starts, the first occurrence of this @ Now, if this string had many ats, it's still going to give me 8. Okay, so it's going to give me the index of the first one. If I wanted the last one, I would say last index of. So in that case, it's going to give me the index of the last one, which is whatever the length is minus 1. So we can use index of and last index of to determine where something is located. So if we want to know, for example, how many R's are in a string or how many times the word and is in a string, we could use a while loop. And the nice thing about index of and last index of is that they return -1 if I don't find the character. So if I tell it, for example, find me the letter K, and there is no letter K in that string, it'll return -1. So index of and last index of return -1 if it doesn't find it. But now let's say I wanted to find all the ats. Well, this is the location. Let's go back to this code. This is the location of the first one. And so I can say while location @ does not equal to -1. So I'm finding it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to print the location. So now I'm printing the first location. And now I want to print the next one. So I'm going to go and do my update and say now location @ to name dot index of, and there's another version of the index of which takes an int. And let's look at the Java docs here for this one. It says returns the index within this string of the first occurrence of the specified substring starting at a specified index. So what I want to do now is I already found the first @ I want to see what's the next one. So I want to find the next @ but I don't want to start from location 0. I want to start from the next location. So if this was at location, let's say 5, I want to start with location 6. So I'm going to come here and say location @ +1. Okay. And let's try that. And so it's going to tell me that this @ we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 of them. And so it told me I found it at location 8, 25, and 29, and 30 at the end. So we can use like a while loop, for example, to find occurrences of certain characters or strings. We could also do it with strings. So let's say, let's do the IM. Let's put a couple of IMs in there. IM, IM, and IM. And let's change it to IM. So here we should find 4 of them. And let's test it and make sure we get 4. And we got 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're getting 4. Why is that? Let's make the string a little shorter so that we can count the characters in there. Let's try that again. Oh, there it is. It's 4 now. So something, we probably had an IM in there that I wasn't seeing. Let's go back and undo. All right, one more time. Okay, so 0 and then 8. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Huh, I don't see an IM. Oh, because I didn't change this. This should be an IM. My mistake. Okay, so now we got 4. Makes sense. Okay, so here I forgot to update the IM from an ampersand and the @ sign. So we can use like index of, for example. So those are 2 uses for it. Okay, and this is the Java documentation for it. There's another method called substring, which allows you to get part of a string. So for example, if I have a name and I want to get here, if I say substring and I give it the number 14, what it's going to do is going to return a substring from this location till the end. So let's run this and see what it does. So here we have the string name. Let's just fix that back. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to say system.out.println. I want you to get me a name, a substring starting with location 5, for example. Let's just so that we know what it's printing, where it's printing. So here, when I said I want you to get me a substring starting with location 5, it went and it said 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it printed me everything starting with location 5 onwards. So what we can also do with this, if I want to say, print me everything after the and, after the @ So I can go to name and say, get me the index of the @ sign. Okay. And now this is going to give me the @ sign, and I'm going to print from there. So it's going to give me the string with the @ sign. But if I don't want that, I can say, get me after the index of, add 1 to it. And so now it's going to give me a substring that gives me everything after the @ sign, so I can get the domain, for example. The other thing I could do, I could say, I want to get a substring from the beginning up to this location. So in this case, I'm going to tell it, I want you to start with 0. So substring, if you give it just one argument, it gives you from that location till the end. If you want from a specific location, you can specify the starting location and then how many characters you want. And so in that case, I'm asking for the substring from the beginning until I hit the index of. And so it's going to give me the first part. So I can get the username and I can get the domain. So this would be like the username and this would be the domain. So this is the substring method, and you can use it in different ways.